Hey guys, this is the first out of 3 videos showing you how to use TVPaint to start an animated project, from storyboarding to a finished animatic. These 3 videos are taken from our TVPaint Animation course, which covers so much more, including a ton of frame-by-frame animation lessons, special effects, and more. Check out the full course at bloopanimation.com/tvpaintanimation. And now, part 1, storyboarding.
So we already touched on the basics of the project panel, which is here on this tab. The core of its functionality is that it allows you to keep multiple shots from an animation all in one project file, while still giving them a separate timeline. In this video, we'll look at all the functionality we have here, and specifically how to use the project panel for storyboarding. So by default, we have one scene with one shot or clip inside it. The scene is represented by this box with the cut-off corners, and the clip is represented by the dark gray box inside it. Up here we have the number for the clip. It's scene 1, clip 1 of 1. Its name is untitled, and it has a duration of 1 frame. If you click this button over here, the duration will show as timecode instead of number of frames. Let's double-click the name and give it a better one. Let's put something on the first panel. You can draw on your canvas even in the project panel. Since this is an empty clip, the drawing just goes on the first frame of the timeline. Now, let's do a quick rundown of all the buttons over here and how they work. Let's look at this first pair of buttons. At first, it might look like these buttons are exactly the same, but if you look real close, you'll see the top one has a black border between the light gray and the dark gray. That's because the top button will create a new separate scene, and the bottom one creates a new clip within the same scene as the one you currently have selected. You can see how that's reflected in the numbering. Now these buttons add the clip or scene before the selected panel, but these will put them after. If you ever put panels in the wrong order, you can click on the name and drag them where they're supposed to go. Then these are delete buttons. The bottom one will delete the selected clip, and the top one will delete the entire scene. Next to those, this button will duplicate the clip, and this one will duplicate the scene. Then these buttons are for splitting and merging scenes. This one will split the scene after the currently selected clip, and this one will merge the current scene with the one after it. Then this button down here is for merging clips. That's a little more complicated because it merges the actual timelines of the two clips. We'll look at how and when to use that in the next video. These functions are also available if you right-click on a clip. Plus, you'll see some other options. You can hide a clip. This will make it not show in your animatic, and by default, you won't be able to print it out on your published storyboard PDF. And down here, you'll see that you can give clips color groups to stay organized. Now, let's get into using these to make proper storyboards. The key is in your view up here along the top. Right now, we're in thumbnail view, but if we switch it to column view, we get fields for each clip that we can fill in with dialogue and action notes for the story. There's also a general notes field tab down here. Also, while you're filling things in, fill in the general info about the project over here too. This will get printed on your boards when you publish. This next view is the same thing but horizontal. This is more of the Japanese style of formatting boards, but it also just gives you more room to type, and you can switch back and forth. This next view is timeline view. We'll use this for making animatics later. It lets you add audio tracks and time out the duration of your clips. We'll go over animatics in the next video. To finish out the top area here, this lock lets you lock the board so nothing can be changed. And if you're going to share the file, you can even right-click and give it a password so no one else messes with it. We saw the watch switches the duration indicators between frames and timecode. And lastly, if you click and drag on this magnifying glass, it lets you scale the preview images of your clips. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a storyboard for the project. We'll be using this as an example for the rest of the course. So here's where the issue of project size comes up. As we learned in the last video, all the clips in your project have to be the same dimensions. So if I know one of my shots is going to have a big camera move in it and needs a wide background, I have to decide how to handle that. I could make every clip that larger size, but then I have a bunch of extra space on each panel. Instead, I think the best way to handle it in this case is to just have my clips the standard size for the board, and then on shots that have a camera move, I'll split them out into a separate project and change the canvas size for when I'm doing the final animation. Then I'll edit them back together later. Now that that's settled, I can do my board. You'll see that in some scenes, I'm actually going into the clip so I can set up different layers, like for backgrounds. This just makes it easier to draw. So here's one of the scenes where I want to have a camera move. Let's finally look more in depth at how to do that. Again, this is only in Professional Edition. We've already seen that you can take your camera tool and position your starting point, and you can move, scale, or rotate to define what the camera view is actually seeing at the start. Then, to make a move, you click again to set the end position. And if you want, you can even define extra positions in the middle by clicking. By default, it connects them with a smooth curved path. That's because the mode over here in the tool panel is set to spline. If I change it to linear, the path will be straight. You probably want to keep it on spline or smart spline. Also over here in Tools, under Command, you have the option to invert, which makes the direction of the camera move reverse. You can also save a camera move as a file, or load a camera move you already saved, or reset your camera. Then, maybe the most important feature over here is the time profile. This lets you define the easing of your camera move. You click to add points to the graph, and you probably want this set to spline as well. Oops, the scene's going to actually need some length for this to work. I'm going to make it about 6 seconds. You don't have to do all your timing just for the board, but I want to do it to make sure that this camera move will actually look good. And I may as well show you while I'm here. So this S-curve will make the camera start slow, speed up, and then gradually slow down again. Also, let's say I don't want the camera move to start right away, and I don't want it to end at the very end. I can come out to the frame on my timeline where I want the camera move to start, then open the time profile, and add another point along the bottom, and make it so the curve doesn't start until that frame. Then I'll do the same with the end of the curve. It's going to take a little adjusting to get this just right. If you want, you could even stretch out this easing graph to be the whole length of your timeline if it helps you line things up. And here, now that's the camera move I want. And lastly, if you want to get fancy, you can add motion blur to the camera move by turning up this setting. Here's the clip rendered out so you can see what the motion blur looks like. Now, I'm just going to finish the board. See, here I'm using the camera move I set up to help position my character. Could have just as easily done this part first and then the camera move. I'm making a lot of use of the perspective guides that we looked at in the guides video. It makes it much easier to do all this architecture. I like to bring in the camera tool as early as possible so that I can make sure that the scene is laid out in a way that the camera will always be able to see the elements that I want it to. Sometimes what I'll do is actually do multiple poses inside the same clip on the timeline, almost as if I was animating. This lets me use the light table tool so that I know that the character's size and stuff is consistent. I'll then split this out into separate clips for the storyboard. There, you can see I've gone through and made some different panels and scenes and filled in the action and dialogue fields. So in panels where you have a camera move, you'll see it represented on your thumbnail. If you mouse over, it'll actually show you what the camera view looks like. So now, let's look at how to get this into a more useful format that we can share. In the next video, we'll look at your options for publishing your storyboard. I'll see you there.